The Third Reich's relationship with drugs represents one of the most disturbing and hypocritical aspects of Nazi Germany. While publicly championing purity and clean living, the Nazi regime systematically distributed methamphetamine to its soldiers and conducted horrific drug experiments on concentration camp prisoners, creating a war machine fueled by chemical substances and human suffering. The rise of Pervitin, methamphetamine as military strategy in 1937, German chemist Friedrich Hauschild synthesized methamphetamine while working for Temmler Werke, a Berlin pharmaceutical company. Marketed under the brand name Pervitin, this drug became wildly popular in Nazi Germany and was initially available without prescription. The little white pills were even incorporated into boxed chocolates, making methamphetamine consumption a casual part of German society. The timeline of Pervitin's integration into Nazi society reveals the calculated nature of its distribution. First patented in 1937, the drug hit the civilian market in 1938 and quickly became endemic among the German population. It was particularly popular among night shift workers and young recreational users who stayed awake late into the night, as the drug increased alertness, confidence, concentration, and risk-taking behavior, while reducing sensitivity to pain, hunger, and tiredness. Dr. Otto F. Ranke, director of the Research Institute of Defense Physiology, recognized Pervitin's military potential after testing it on 90 university students. He believed the drug could create chemically enhanced soldiers who would give Germany a decisive advantage by fighting harder and longer than their opponents. Ranke himself became a daily user, working 36 to 50 hours without sleep while documenting his experiences in his medical diary. The Wehrmacht began administering Pervitin to soldiers during the 1938 occupation of Czechoslovakia, but the true test came with the invasion of Poland in September 1939. The drug became integral to Germany's blitzkrieg strategy, where speed and surprise were paramount. As historian Nicholas Rasmussen noted, the German blitzkrieg was powered by amphetamine as much as it was powered by machine, mass distribution, and combat enhancement. Between April and July 1940, German servicemen received more than 35 million methamphetamine tablets. The Temmler Werke factory operated at maximum capacity, producing up to 833,000 tablets per day. Pilots and tank crews received the drug in chocolate bars called Flieger Schokolade, Flyer's Chocolate, and Panzer Schokolade, Tanker's Chocolate, with each piece of chocolate containing 15 milligrams of pure methamphetamine. Soldiers gave Pervitin various nicknames including Stuka tablets, Hermann Göring pills, Tank chocolate, and Airman's marzipan. The recommended dosage was 2 to 4 tablets daily, with effects lasting up to 11 hours. The drug enabled soldiers to march and fight for days without rest, food, or sleep, while maintaining euphoric optimism. During the 1940 invasion of France, German forces covered 240 miles of challenging terrain through the Ardennes forest in just 11 days. British press described German paratroopers as heavily drugged, fearless, and berserk. General Heinz Guderian ordered his troops to go sleepless for at least 3 nights if necessary, a demand made possible by methamphetamine. Historian Shelby Stanton commented on the scale of distribution. They dispensed it to the line troops. 90% of their army had to march on foot day and night. It was more important for them to keep punching during the blitzkrieg than to get a good night's sleep. The whole damn army was hopped up. It was one of the secrets of blitzkrieg. Nazi drug hypocrisy. The Nazi regime's embrace of methamphetamine stood in stark contrast to their public anti-drug stance. When Hitler came to power in 1933, he could have been considered the first politician to combat legally rampant drug use, priding themselves as clean-cut, with harsh anti-drug policies. The Nazis began throwing drug users into concentration camps as early as 1933, using prohibitionist laws against drug use, combined with anti-Semitic propaganda that portrayed Jews as drug users and a plague to the German people. Drug addicts could be imprisoned for up to 2 years and potentially indefinitely, while doctors could be punished for up to 5 years with no work. The Weimar Republic became a surveillance state where health information was not considered confidential when it came to drug use, because it was deemed a public threat. Drug cards were created, and keeping records of family members who may have become addicted to drugs was encouraged. Hitler himself was obsessed with his image of perfection and portraying himself as a health saint, reportedly refusing to drink coffee in the name of not allowing poisons in his body. This myth of self-denial and self-sacrifice was essential to his success and influence, making the regime's systematic distribution of methamphetamine to soldiers a profound contradiction. In July 1941, Pervitin was declared an illicit substance due to a national ideology shift instilled by the Nazis. However, this shift was intended to restrict public access while maintaining military supplies, as the drug's use was not condemned among soldiers due to the increased work ethic it elicited. The human cost of chemical enhancement. The dark side of Pervitin use quickly became apparent among German forces. Soldiers experienced severe physical exhaustion as they pushed their bodies beyond natural limits, often ignoring basic needs for food and sleep, resulting in malnutrition and dangerous sleep deprivation. The drug triggered intense mood swings, paranoia, and hallucinations, making soldiers prone to impulsive and reckless decisions. Many users suffered heart attacks and cardiac complications. During the French invasion, a lieutenant colonel experienced heart pains after taking Pervitin 4 times daily for weeks, while the commander of the 12th Tank Division rushed to a hospital after suffering a heart attack within an hour of taking a single pill. Several officers died from heart attacks while off duty after using the drug. Addiction became widespread among German forces. Soldiers developed dangerous dependencies, experiencing severe withdrawal symptoms, including cravings, fatigue, depression, anxiety, sleep disturbances, agitation, mood swings, and vivid nightmares. Some soldiers became so paranoid they shot their own comrades or committed suicide. Even future Nobel Prize winner Heinrich Böll became addicted to the stimulant during his military service. Dr. Otto Ranke's beliefs about Pervitin's military value shifted when he observed soldiers in the field and noticed the devastating effects of prolonged use. Despite being a strong advocate for the drug's strategic advantages, he witnessed firsthand how sustained methamphetamine use destroyed the very soldiers it was meant to enhance. Hitler's personal drug dependency. Adolf Hitler's own drug use represents one of the most shocking aspects of Nazi hypocrisy. In 1936, Hitler met Dr. Theodor Morell, who initially provided vitamin injections that Hitler believed elevated his healthy diet to a scientific level. However, as the war turned difficult in fall 1941, Morell began administering opiates and hormone injections. Hitler's drug career progressed through 3 distinct phases. The first involved high-dosage intravenous vitamins. The second phase, beginning in fall 1941, included opiates and hormone injections, with Morell manufacturing concoctions of animal organs in his own laboratory in occupied Czechoslovakia. The third and most severe phase started in 1943 with heavy opiate use, particularly Eucadol, which contained oxycodone. Morell's records document at least 24 specific injections of oxycodone, though many entries marked simply as X likely represent additional opioid administrations. Hitler's drug abuse increased significantly from fall 1941 through winter 1944, as he relied on these substances to substitute for his diminishing natural charisma. The combination of stimulants and opiates created a speedball effect, yanking Hitler's already disordered personality between euphoria and Black Depression. The irony of Hitler's addiction was compounded by his public image as a health-conscious leader who abstained from alcohol and tobacco. While he promoted racial purity and clean living to the German people, he became increasingly dependent on a cocktail of dangerous substances that undermined his mental stability and decision-making abilities during critical moments of the war. The D-MyX experiments, ultimate chemical horror A's. The war progressed, Nazi scientists developed increasingly potent drug combinations. D-MyX represented the pinnacle of their chemical warfare research, containing 5 mg oxycodone, 5 mg cocaine, and 3 mg methamphetamine in each tablet. This cocktail was designed to create superhuman endurance in soldiers facing the final battles of the war. Requested by Vice Admiral Helmuth High for a stronger pill that would keep soldiers ready for battle when they are asked to continue fighting beyond a period considered normal. The testing of D. Nike revealed the depths of Nazi medical depravity. At Sachsenhausen concentration camp, prisoners were forced into a shoe-walking unit to test military footwear durability. These prisoners were given the experimental drug combination and forced to walk 25 miles per day while carrying 25-pound backpacks from morning until night until their shoes fell apart. One documented case shows a prisoner who, after receiving 75 milligrams of cocaine, walked up to 60 miles without fatigue, establishing a standard that other prisoners were forced to meet or face severe consequences. The experiments were conducted under contract with the German Navy, which paid the SS to use prisoners as human test subjects to determine which drug combination would keep inmates awake the longest. The D. Nike's experiments demonstrated the complete dehumanization of concentration camp prisoners who were treated as expendable test subjects for military enhancement research. The systematic nature of these experiments, combined with the financial arrangements between military branches and the SS, reveals the institutionalized cruelty that permeated Nazi medical practices. Medical experiments in concentration. Camps' Nazi medical experiments extended far beyond drug testing, encompassing a systematic program of human experimentation that violated every principle of medical ethics. Nearly 200 German doctors were stationed across concentration camps to conduct these experiments, without regard for prisoner safety or suffering. At Dachau, prisoners were immersed in near-freezing water to study hypothermia effects, with researchers documenting how long it took for subjects to die from exposure. Dr. Josef Mengele at Auschwitz-Birkenau preferred experimenting on twins, particularly children, sometimes sewing them together or studying disease effects through blood transfusions between siblings. At Ravensbrück, Polish women underwent repeated surgical procedures, including muscle removal operations, that left their legs progressively thinner and weaker. The experiments included high-altitude tests where prisoners were placed in decompression chambers until they died, poison administration to study antidotes, mustard gas exposure to test protective equipment, phosphorus burn treatments, sterilization procedures, and limb transplantation attempts. Sigmund Rascher conducted blood coagulation experiments where subjects were shot through the neck or chest, or had limbs amputated without anesthesia to study bleeding patterns. At various camps, prisoners were deliberately infected with diseases including malaria, typhus, and tuberculosis, exposed to deadly chemicals including phosgene and mustard gas, or subjected to surgical procedures designed to advance Nazi racial ideology. Many subjects died during these experiments, while survivors faced lifelong disabilities and trauma. The systematic exploitation of human subjects, the Nazi medical establishment, created an extensive network of experimentation that served multiple purposes, advancing military medicine, supporting racial ideology, and developing population control methods. Experiments were planned at the highest levels by Heinrich Himmler, Ernst Grawitz, and Wolfram Sievers, with support from the Waffen-SS Hygiene Institute. Many experiments were conducted on behalf of German pharmaceutical companies or medical institutes, while others served doctors' personal interests or academic career advancement. The scope included research on mass sterilization methods intended for peoples considered racially inferior, reflecting the regime's demographic policies. Prisoners were subjected to repeated surgical procedures, with some individuals undergoing 6 or more operations without proper medical care or pain relief. Władysława Karolewska, who testified at the Nuremberg trials, survived both sulfanilamide and bone experiments at Ravensbrück, providing crucial evidence of the systematic torture disguised as medical research. The systematic nature of these experiments, combined with detailed documentation and photography, demonstrates the calculated cruelty of Nazi medical practices. Doctors kept meticulous records of their procedures, treating human subjects as laboratory animals while advancing their careers through published research based on torture and murder. The collapse of Nazi drug policy by 1940, growing concerns about Pervitin's addictive potential and severe side effects led to reduced allocations, though the drug continued to be distributed throughout the war. Leo Conti, The Reich Healthführer and others sounded alarm bells about the risks of Pervitin, resulting in the drug being made available by prescription only in late 1939 and early 1940. However, these warnings largely fell on deaf ears, and the new regulations were widely ignored. The German military formally acknowledged amphetamine addiction by 1942, but Temmler Werke remained profitable despite mounting evidence of health dangers. The contradiction between official policy and military necessity created a system where drug use was simultaneously condemned and encouraged, depending on the user's role in the Nazi hierarchy. As the war progressed and Germany faced increasing defeats, drug use among both military and civilian populations became more desperate and widespread. The initial promise of chemical enhancement gave way to the reality of addiction, health complications, and diminished military effectiveness, the legacy of chemical warfare and human experimentation. The aftermath of Nazi drug policies and medical experiments left lasting trauma on survivors and veterans. Those exposed to Pervitin faced not only the psychological scars of battle, but also the challenges of overcoming addiction in a society that had systematically encouraged drug use while publicly condemning it. Concentration camp survivors carried physical and psychological wounds from medical experiments that violated fundamental human rights. The Nazi regime's use of methamphetamine and conducting of medical experiments represents a dark convergence of scientific advancement with absolute moral corruption. While publicly promoting racial purity and clean living, the Third Reich became dependent on chemical enhancement and human experimentation, revealing the profound hypocrisy at the heart of Nazi ideology. This systematic abuse of both soldiers and prisoners demonstrates how totalitarian regimes can pervert medical science and exploit human subjects in pursuit of military and ideological goals, leaving a legacy of suffering that serves as a permanent warning against the abuse of scientific authority and human dignity. The Nazi experience with methamphetamine and human experimentation stands as one of history's darkest examples of how political extremism can corrupt medicine, science, and basic humanity in the pursuit of power and conquest.